Hey guys, Leyland here. And I've got a question for you. Which Kanto starter do you think is the best? Now you may be asking yourself, Lynn, I know you're kinda dumb. It's true. Which version are you talking about exactly? We've got the originals, red, blue, and green, the revised version of yellow, the remakes on Game Boy Advance, and everyone's favorite, Pokemon Go Remastered, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Now, I'll eventually cover all of those games as well as the other generations. Yeah, that's right. I posted all of these polls throughout the week of all 9 generations of starters to see which ones you guys thought was the best. And so, to kick off this series, we'll be looking at Pokemon Red and Blue. Now, for those that don't know, Pokemon released back in 1996 with copies Red and Green. Now, over here in the US, we never got the green version. Honestly, kinda sad. I would've really liked it. However, in 1998, alongside Pokemon Red, we got the blue version. With this new version, we received various changes and bug fixes. However, despite these changes and fixes, Generation 1 mainline games were seriously broken. And I'm not just talking about the many glitches that we had. I'm just gonna focus on a few of the bugs. And believe me, there are a ton of bugs and glitches that occurred that made the games quote-unquote broken. There was a 1 in 256 chance that a move with 100% accuracy will miss. Certain trainers' AI would use moves with typing that is super effective even if said move does no damage. For example, Lance's Dragonair is facing a poison type, it's going to use agility. Special is one stat that represented both special attack and special defense. Critical hits were based off of Pokemon's speed. Slower Pokemon wouldn't hit crits as much as those with faster base speeds. Crits also deal less damage because it doesn't calculate stat changes that both you or your opponent would do. For example, if you used Swords Dance, critical hits would not count the boost in your attack stat. All special and physical moves are based on type, shown on screen here. Alright you guys, with all of that out of the way, let's dive in and answer the question, which starter is best for a playthrough in Pokemon Red and Blue? Alright, most people already know the OG starters, Bulbasaur, the seed Pokemon, Charmander, the lizard, Squirtle, the tiny turtle. Go ahead and make your prediction in the comments below, which one you think is the best starter to choose. So real quick you guys, we'll be scoring each starter over their mood pool and how they fare against the gym leaders and the Elite Four. With that, let's start out with Bulbasaur. A fully evolved Venusaur has a base total stat of 425. All 3 of the starters have this. Its best stat is Special at 100. Charizard's best stat is Speed. Blastoise is very tanky, with its best stat being Defense. The rest for all of them range anywhere from 78 to 85. Moving on to the move pools. Venusaur's feels a bit small in comparison to the other 2, unfortunately. There really isn't much variety and hardly any moves to cover its weaknesses. Honestly, beyond the 4 grass moves that it can learn, that being Vine Whip, Razor Leaf, and Solar Beam through Level Up, and Mega Drain via TM. However, every other attacking moves it can learn is normal, which sadly, it doesn't really take advantage of that high special attack that it has. A good thing, however, for Venusaur is that it does receive quite a few good assist moves, such as Leech Seed, Poison Powder, and the ability to abuse how powerful putting your opponent to sleep was back then in Generation 1. Next up, we have Charizard. Overall, it's pretty good. It learns stab moves like Flamethrower and Fire Blast. Really strong stab moves, honestly. Now, even though Charizard is a dual fire flying type, unfortunately, it doesn't actually learn any flying moves. Heck, it doesn't even learn fly, not until yellow. It does get access to Mega Kick and Earthquake. Not gonna lie, the variety of moves that it learns does make Charizard a powerhouse in the late game, especially with its high base speed of 100. Only 14 other Pokemon outsped it. Last but certainly not least, Blastoise. It is a bit unfortunate that in the beginning of the game, just like Bulbasaur, Squirtle is a bit lacking in the strong staff moves. To be honest, Bubble Beam that you get from Misty after getting the second gym badge is pretty much what you'll be using until you obtain the HM Surf. However, there is some bright side, is that Blastoise also receives quite a bit of variety of moves, just like Charizard. Adding on the fact with its high defensive stat, it becomes quite the strong Pokemon to face against. Overall, I will say that despite the assist moves that Venusaur learns, the lackluster move pool that it has, I've gotta put it in last place. Although for both Charizard and Blastoise, they are so similar. Decent moves all around that both can learn during level up, and this sheer variety of moves that they can learn via TMs, I'd have to put both of them in first. However, I've got to give Blastoise first place, due to the fact they can actually learn both Ice Beam, Blizzard, and Dig and Earthquake, which helps counter 2 of its weaknesses, while Charizard only has the coverage for 2 of the 4 weaknesses that it has. So, now let's go through each gym and Elite Four member, starting off with Brock. Bulbasaur easily clears this gym without a sweat, Squirtle too. However, for Charmander, it does take a while to knock them out. If you pick Charmander, honestly, it's best to pick up either a Mankey or Nidoran on your way there. Up next, Misty. Unfortunately, Ivysaur sadly has the weak Vine Whip. While you do resist Misty's Pokemon, it'll still take about 2 to 4 turns to knock them out. For Wartortle, even though you do resist water, and if you over-level Wartortle, it will still struggle a little bit to knock out Misty. Charmeleon, of course, just won't cut it for this gym. Sorry, bud. For both Wartortle and Charmander though, it is best to pick up either a Pikachu or a Bellsprout before entering the gym. Third up is the War Veteran Lieutenant Surge. Ivysaur resists this gym, but it's not really capable of taking out his team by itself. It's honestly best to snag a ground type. Now, when it comes to the water starter, this is where a lot of people might be saying, Wartortle just obviously can't cut it, right? You might be wrong. You might not be able to outspeed Raichu unless you overlevel, but Wartortle can learn the move Dig. If you're lucky, and perhaps you do overlevel your water starter, you might actually be capable of beating this gym single-handedly. Charmeleon, of course, will do actually well in this gym, if you by chance outspeed his Raichu using Dig. Erica, and the all-girls gym. For Ivysaur, while you may resist her Pokemon, it'll be a struggle to do it solo. Honestly, it's best to bring a flying, bug, or fire-type Pokemon. Even though Charmeleon only knows Ember at this point, you'll be able to get by unless you're unlucky and get poisoned. Unfortunately, Wartortle won't be pulling out any advantage with this gym. Unless you really overlevel it and teach it Ice Beam, it's unlikely of getting further past her Victory Bell. With Razor Leaf's high crit chance, yeah, you're sure to be dead. The Poison Ninja Koga. Venusaur resists his Pokemon and is immune to being poisoned. However, it is unlikely to get far past his first coughing. Now, if you are lucky and you don't get poisoned, both Blastoise and Charizard will do fairly well with Dig alone. Wheezing will be the only major issue because of its self-destruct. Sabrina, the old powerful Psychic type trainer. Here is probably the worst gym for all 3 starters. Venusaur will be getting much further than Kadabra. Blastoise can tank a bit of her powerful Psychic moves, but honestly, it's gonna struggle against Alakazam. Charizard is a little more capable, but really not by much thanks to its speed. You'll most likely need another Pokemon or 2 to finish her off. Seriously, Psychic-type Pokemons were ridiculously OP back then. The fiery trainer Blaine. Okay, we all know Venusaur isn't surviving long with this gym. Thanks to Charizard learning Earthquake though, it makes quick work of dealing with his entire team as long as you don't take too much damage. Blastoise? Yeah, it destroys this gym with Stab Surf. Last but certainly not least, the Team Rocket leader, Giovanni. Venusaur, of course, can handle Giovanni's ground Pokemon with ease due to Razor Leaf alone. High crit chance. Blastoise, of course, washes the floor as well. And thanks to knowing Earthquake and the powerful Slash move, Charizard is more than capable of handling this gym. So to summarize, real quick for the gyms, while Bulbasaur does have the advantage in the beginning against both Brock and Misty, resisting Lieutenant Surge and Erica, it's honestly not quite capable of dealing enough damage against them. Giovanni is honestly the only other gym Venusaur is good at. Charizard is definitely hard mode, being weak to the first two gyms. However, due to its capability of learning Dig, it does pull through Lieutenant Surge, Koga, as well as Blaine and Giovanni with Earthquake. Squirtle is back and forth win and lose throughout. It is especially cool that it can learn Dig, which honestly helps against Lieutenant Surge, as well as taking out Koga. So I unfortunately have to give last place to Venusaur in this, and Charizard and Blastoise in first. Now for the final portion of this video, the Elite Four. First up, we have the Elite Four member, Lorelei. With Venusaur, it's surprising how well it can survive and knock out the majority of her team. It's due to the fact that it outspeeds everything but her Jinx. And with Razor Leaf's high crit chance, you'll do quite well. With Charizard, your survival rate is actually quite high due to the fact that Lorelei not having much for water moves up until you reach Lapras. With Slash and Earthquake, you'll most likely reach Lapras, but you will unfortunately have to switch out. Sadly, Blastoise doesn't quite do as well with this battle. It does resist, however, it struggles to deal enough damage. The Fighting Master Bruno. With Venusaur, honestly, this member is easily soloed. Charizard is capable of taking on Bruno. The only real struggle you might encounter is Hitmonlee's Rock Throw. Blastoise can easily solo this member. Despite the fact of how intimidating Bruno might be, honestly, this is not the strongest member in the Elite Four. The spooky old Agatha. Due to how abusive sleeping is back in Generation 1 and her Golbat, it's honestly best to have another Pokemon if you picked Venusaur. As long as you could avoid being put to sleep, then Charizard can easily solo Agatha. Blastoise is pretty much the same as Charizard. As long as you avoid sleep, you can handle Agatha just fine. Lance, the Dragon Master. For both Charizard and Venusaur, this member will be too much for them. Even if Lance's dumb AI makes Dragonair use Agility against Venusaur due to a bug seeing Psychic being super effective towards poison, unfortunately, they're just not going to be able to deal enough damage. Blastoise, however, with the ability to learn both Ice Beam and Blizzard, you'll be more than capable of handling his team. Your final battle against the champion, your rival. Sadly, with your rival though, Venusaur just isn't capable of handling anyone beyond his Rhydon. For Charizard, his whole team is doable as long as you don't suffer too much damage. Yet, his starter will undoubtedly finish you off. Blastoise, on the other hand, surprisingly does well on its own. It unfortunately won't do that much damage against Gyarados, and if by chance you do overlevel just a little bit, you might be able to outspeed his starter Venusaur, and be capable of taking it out, thanks to Ice Beam or Blizzard. Alright you guys, now with all that calculated, I think we have an answer. In last place, we unfortunately have Venusaur. In second place, we have Charizard. That means, in first place, not by much though from Charizard, we have Blastoise. Honestly, it might struggle a little bit in the beginning of the game. However, in the late game, it is more than capable of handling more Pokemon than the other two.
Objection!
Huh? What's going on?
You're not entirely correct on this. Play back the video. There was something you missed.
Critical hits were based off of Pokemon's speed. Slower Pokemon wouldn't hit crits as much as those with faster base speeds. Oh yeah, you're right. Faster Mons back in Generation 1 games could hit critical hits easier than other Mons that were slower. So, let's add some extra points according to who is faster. And since Charizard has a base speed of 100, it does win. And unfortunately, Blastoise is the slowest of the three. So, basing it off of this, we have a new best starter. Due to its high speed, Charizard is more likely to pull off critical hits that might change the battles throughout your playthrough. It might be the harder starter to get through the game in the beginning, however, it will become the better starter in the end game.